The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding, and Emma walked out, her mind already racing through the day's to-do list. It was just another ordinary Tuesday, nothing special. Or so she thought. A typical day for Emma was filled with rushing between meetings, answering a barrage of emails, and pretending she didn't care that her job was barely keeping her afloat. As a customer service representative at one of the most prestigious hotels in the city, she'd long ago stopped hoping for anything exciting. Every day felt like a repeat of the last, a monotonous cycle of complaints, requests, and tired smiles. But that morning, as she arrived at her post near the front desk, she noticed something unusual. A man, hunched over in a tattered coat, sat on the edge of the lobby, staring at the floor. His disheveled appearance immediately caught her attention. It wasn't unusual to see people struggling financially in the area, but there was something about this man that felt different. His eyes, though sunken and tired, seemed to hold a quiet intensity, like he was waiting for something or someone. If you're curious to know how Emma's decision to help this nobody leads to an unexpected twist and what happens next, make sure to hit that subscribe button now, because this is only the beginning of an unforgettable story. Emma noticed the stranger sitting there for a few hours, never asking for help or making a fuss. He looked like a nobody, someone you'd barely notice in a crowd. And yet, for some reason, she couldn't shake the feeling that he needed assistance. Without thinking twice, she approached him, offering a simple, "Can I help you with anything?" The man glanced up, his eyes meeting hers for the first time. He gave her a small, almost imperceptible nod. She smiled, feeling good about the decision to help someone who seemed so lost. She didn't know it then, but this small act of kindness would change everything. "Just need a room for the night, if possible," he murmured softly, barely audible. Emma hesitated for a moment. It wasn't her job to give away rooms, and there were strict protocols in place, but something about his voice made her take a risk. She glanced over her shoulder to make sure no one was watching, and then made the decision that would cost her everything. She helped him, and in doing so, she unknowingly sealed her fate. Emma's decision to help the man wasn't a thought-out plan, it was a split-second impulse. The truth was, she had seen too much of the same old faces in the hotel lobby. The guests with money, the ones who expected service with a smile, the ones who made her feel invisible. This man, though, was different. His quiet desperation seemed to call out to her, almost as if the universe was nudging her to make a choice, to be the one person who didn't look the other way. She could have passed by, continued with her routine, but she didn't. She chose to act. As soon as she made the decision, the weight of it pressed down on her. She spoke with the receptionist, keeping her voice low, hoping no one would overhear. The last thing she wanted was to make a scene or draw attention to herself. She wasn't supposed to offer rooms to anyone without proper documentation. It was against the rules, and the hotel wasn't just any place. It was an exclusive establishment where only the most well-to-do were welcomed with open arms. But something about the way the man looked at her made her heart ache. There was no arrogance in his eyes, no expectation, just a weary exhaustion. When he asked for a room, he didn't ask for luxury or comfort. He just needed shelter. And Emma knew she had the power to give him that, even if it meant bending the rules. She slid the keycard across the desk to the man, her hands shaking slightly as she handed it over. She didn't know what she was doing, but she was doing it anyway. She told herself it was just one night, one small act of kindness, and maybe, just maybe, it would make a difference in someone's life. The man, whom she'd learned was named Thomas, thanked her quietly. He left without another word, heading toward the elevator with his tattered coat trailing behind him. As he walked away, Emma exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. For a moment, everything felt right. Maybe this was the right thing to do, she thought. Maybe this was what she was meant to do. But as the minutes ticked by, Emma felt a growing unease. She glanced around the lobby, her eyes darting nervously to the security cameras. Was anyone watching? Would anyone find out? Her internal alarm bells rang louder and louder. But it was too late to undo what she had just done. Within hours, her worst fears became reality. The manager, Mr. Gray, stormed into the lobby, his face a mixture of disbelief and fury. He headed straight toward her, his eyes locked onto hers with a piercing gaze. "Emma," he said coldly. "What is this?" He held up the clipboard with a list of room assignments, and her heart sank as she realized he had noticed the discrepancy. The name on the list didn't match any legitimate guest. Her heart raced. I gave him a room," Emma stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Gray's eyes narrowed. "You what?" His voice dropped into a low growl. "You know the rules. You don't give rooms to people without proper verification. This is a breach of our protocol." Emma swallowed hard. She had been caught, and there was no way out. I couldn't let him sleep on the streets," she explained, her words tumbling out, desperate to justify herself. "You should have called security," Mr. Gray replied, his tone growing sharper. "You're risking the reputation of this hotel, Emma. Do you understand that?" Emma felt her stomach twist in knots. She had broken the rules, and now it was too late to take it back. She wanted to argue, to explain that she'd only wanted to help, but the words caught in her throat. She was being reprimanded, and nothing she could say would change the fact that she had made a serious mistake. "You're suspended," Mr. Gray said coldly. "I'll have HR contact you." Emma's world seemed to collapse in that moment. She stared at the floor, unable to meet his eyes. This was it. She had just risked everything for a stranger, a nobody, and now she had nothing left. Her job was gone, just like that. All because she had trusted her instincts, because she had believed in doing the right thing. The man she had helped, the man who had seemed so ordinary, had just cost her everything. As she stood there in shock, the elevator doors opened behind her, and the man, Thomas, stepped out, completely unaware of the storm his simple request had set in motion. He caught her eye briefly, but neither of them said a word. The days that followed felt like a blur. Emma spent most of her time at home, lying on the couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. She couldn't stop thinking about the incident, the split-second decision that had cost her everything. Her phone rang at odd hours, but she ignored it. It was the hotel's HR department, calling to finalize her termination. She didn't need to answer. She already knew the outcome. She had let a stranger into her life, and now she was paying the price. It wasn't just the job she had lost, it was everything that came with it. Stability, security, the routine that had once felt so suffocating, but now seemed like a distant memory. She hadn't told anyone at home. Her roommates were always busy with their own lives, and she didn't want to burden them with her failure. She didn't even know what to say. How could she explain that she had been fired for helping a man who might not have even been grateful for it? The doubt began to creep in. Had she done the right thing? Was it worth it? Then, one evening, as she sat by the window watching the sun dip below the horizon, her phone buzzed with a message that would change everything. It was from an unknown number. "Emma, this is Keanu. I need to talk to you." She stared at the message, her heart skipping a beat. Keanu? It couldn't be. It was probably a prank, some cruel joke. But the words on the screen felt too real, too deliberate. She couldn't ignore it. She had to know. She quickly typed a response. "Keanu? Keanu Reeves?" A few moments later, the reply came. "Yes, I've been trying to reach you. Can we meet?" Emma's hands trembled as she set the phone down. Was this really happening? How could it be? The man she had helped, the nobody, was Keanu Reeves. The thought seemed impossible. He had never mentioned who he really was. She had only seen a tired man in need of help, not a famous Hollywood star. Her mind raced. Was this some kind of mistake? Or was it a sick joke? She had risked her career, her reputation, for someone who had been hiding his true identity all along. She could barely comprehend what was happening. How could she have not known? How could she have been so blind? But despite her confusion, she knew one thing for sure. This was real. Keanu Reeves, the actor, the legend, the man who had starred in some of the biggest blockbusters of all time, was now reaching out to her. When and where, she typed, her heart pounding in her chest. A few minutes later, a reply appeared on the screen. Meet me at the cafe on 5th and Main. I'll be there in an hour. Emma's mind was in a whirl as she grabbed her jacket and rushed out the door. This was her chance to understand everything, to find out why he had contacted her, what this all meant, and if there was any way she could fix the mess she had made. When she arrived at the cafe, her nerves were through the roof. She spotted him immediately. Keanu was sitting at a corner table, his eyes hidden behind sunglasses, his posture relaxed. He looked completely different from the man she had helped in the hotel lobby. The disheveled coat was gone, replaced by a sleek black jacket. He was Keanu Reeves, and he was waiting for her. As she approached, his eyes met hers. There was no sign of judgment, no hint of anger. Just calm, quiet reassurance. "Emma," he said softly, standing up as she reached the table. "Thank you for what you did." She blinked in disbelief. You know what happened?" Keanu nodded. "I know. I've been following your story." She stared at him confused. "How? Why?" He smiled faintly. "I had to reach out. I never meant for things to get this complicated." Emma sat down, trying to steady her breath. "But why didn't you tell me who you were?" Keanu paused, choosing his words carefully. "Sometimes, people need help not because of who they are, but because of who they are in that moment. You helped me when I was a nobody, and for that, I'll always be grateful." The room felt as though it was spinning. Emma couldn't process it all. The world around her seemed to fall away as the truth finally sank in. Keanu Reeves, the man she had helped, the man who had cost her everything, was now the one offering her something in return. Something she hadn't expected. Something that could change her life once again. Emma sat at the cafe, still trying to make sense of everything. Keanu Reeves, the man she had helped, the one who had seemed so ordinary, was a global superstar. She had spent hours over the past few days replaying that moment over and over in her mind. She couldn't understand how she hadn't seen it sooner, but then again, how could she have? "I didn't know," Emma murmured, more to herself than to him. "I didn't know you were Keanu Reeves." Keanu smiled gently, as though he understood the disbelief that was taking hold of her. "I know. I wanted to keep it that way at first." Emma shook her head, still stunned. "But why? Why didn't you tell me who you were?" Keanu leaned forward slightly, his eyes softening as he spoke. "Sometimes, people help others not because of who they are, but because of what they need. I didn't want you to do it for me. I wanted you to do it because you were being kind. I didn't want you to see me as someone special. I wanted to be just a person." Her mind was racing. It was all too surreal. She had never expected this, never dreamed it. Her thoughts swirled with confusion. Why didn't he tell her the truth? Why had he kept it a secret? Was he testing her? As she stared at him, she noticed something else. Something that she hadn't seen before. There was a faint sadness behind his eyes, a weariness that didn't match the public persona of Keanu Reeves. This wasn't the movie star she saw in tabloids and on TV. This was a man who was tired, who had seen too much of the world's darkness. "You said you've been following my story," Emma finally said, the pieces starting to fit together. "How? Why?" Keanu nodded. "I wanted to make sure you were okay. I knew what you'd done for me, and I also knew that the people around you wouldn't understand. I wanted to make sure that you were all right after everything that happened." She leaned back in her chair, still struggling to process it all. "So, you've been watching me, all this time?" He nodded again, his expression serious but not unkind. "I had to, Emma. I had to make sure that you were taken care of." The weight of his words hit her like a wave. This wasn't just a celebrity trying to cover his tracks. This was someone who had noticed her act of kindness, someone who understood her struggle and had been quietly keeping an eye on her, wanting to help. Emma's breath caught in her throat as a new realization hit her. You knew I lost my job, didn't you? Keanu's eyes softened even more. I knew, and I've been thinking about how I could make it right. At that moment, everything shifted. Emma had helped him without knowing who he truly was, but now Keanu Reeves was here, in front of her, and everything was about to change. The nobody she had helped was not only a famous actor, but someone who had noticed her when she least expected it. And now, he was offering her something she couldn't have anticipated. Her heart began to race again. What did he mean by make it right? What was he offering? Keanu, I don't understand, she said, her voice trembling. What are you saying? He smiled faintly, as though he had been waiting for her to ask. I'm saying that I want to help you. I want to give you a chance to make things right. Emma's mind reeled as Keanu's words sank in. He wanted to help her. But what did that mean? Was he offering her a job, a paycheck, or was it something else entirely? The possibilities swirled in her head, and yet she still couldn't make sense of it all. Keanu looked at her intently, his expression calm, as though he was used to dealing with uncertainty. But Emma wasn't sure how to feel. She had just lost her job, her stability, her sense of security, all for a decision that seemed so trivial in the moment but had now led to this shocking revelation. I know what you're thinking, Keanu said softly, breaking through her thoughts. But I don't want you to think this is some charity. I'm offering you an opportunity, a real one. Emma blinked, still in disbelief. What kind of opportunity? Keanu leaned forward slightly, his voice low but filled with sincerity. I've been involved with a new project, something that focuses on giving back to communities in ways that matter. You've got the heart for it, Emma. I've seen that. You've got the kind of spirit that's rare. I think you'd be perfect for it. She stared at him, her thoughts still racing. Could this be real? Could a Hollywood icon like Keanu Reeves really be offering her a chance to turn her life around? She had always dreamed of something more, but never imagined it would come from someone like him. How could I be perfect for something like that? Emma whispered, her doubt creeping in again. I've just lost everything. I don't know if I can be what you need. Keanu's eyes softened, and for the first time he leaned back in his chair, his posture relaxed. I don't need you to be perfect, Emma. I need someone who understands what it's like to be on the outside, to feel invisible. You've been there, and that's what makes you the right person for the job. You don't have to prove anything. You just need to be yourself. His words settled in her mind, but they didn't quiet her doubts. She had spent her whole life trying to prove herself to others, to make something of herself in a world that often seemed indifferent. And now, here was Keanu Reeves, telling her that she didn't have to try so hard. That maybe, just maybe, she had what it took already. Emma swallowed hard, her hands gripping the edge of the table. But what's the catch? Why me? Why are you doing this? Keanu paused, then smiled. A smile that reached his eyes. A smile that felt genuine and unguarded. There's no catch, Emma. I'm not doing this because I have to. I'm doing this because you helped me when no one else would. You showed me something that mattered. Humanity. Kindness. And now I want to give that back to you. The shock was still settling in, but Emma felt something else stirring within her. A spark of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. Was this the chance she had been waiting for? The break she never thought would come? She sat in silence for a moment, staring at Keanu, trying to absorb everything he was offering. And then, with a steadying breath, she nodded. All right, she said quietly. What's the first step? Keanu's smile widened and he stood up, offering his hand. The first step is just saying yes. The rest, we'll figure out together. In that moment, Emma realized that everything had changed. The man she had helped, the nobody, was now offering her a future she had never imagined. And though she didn't know what would come next, she finally felt like she had a chance to rebuild everything she had lost. In the months that followed her meeting with Keanu, Emma's life began to change in ways she never imagined. It felt as if the world had opened up to her, Doors that had once seemed closed were now wide open, and she was walking through them with a newfound sense of purpose. The project Keanu had mentioned turned out to be a non-profit organization focused on helping underprivileged communities, providing educational resources, and creating mentorship opportunities for young people. Keanu was heavily involved, not just as a celebrity figurehead, but as someone who genuinely cared about making a difference. And somehow, Emma was now a part of it. Her first few days with the organization were overwhelming. She didn't know what to expect, but she quickly realized that she was given more responsibility than she could have ever imagined. Keanu had made sure to personally introduce her to the team and made it clear that he trusted her. There was no judgment, no reservations, just an open invitation to contribute in whatever way she could. At first, Emma felt out of place. She wasn't used to the luxury of working with a team so dedicated to giving back, and the environment felt almost surreal. But as the days went by, she started to find her rhythm. She worked on community outreach programs, coordinated educational workshops, and helped manage fundraising events. The more she immersed herself in the work, the more she realized that this was exactly where she needed to be. And then, the financial security she had longed for began to follow. Keanu, understanding the hardship she had faced after losing her previous job, made sure she was compensated generously for her work. The foundation not only covered her expenses, but also offered her a salary that allowed her to start paying off debts that had built up over the years. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt financially free. But the transformation wasn't just about money or status, it was about something deeper. Keanu's belief in her had allowed her to see her own potential. Every day she felt herself growing more confident in her abilities, in her worth. She had once been the woman who helped a nobody, but now she was someone who was actively making a difference in the world. One evening, after a particularly successful event, Emma and Keanu sat together in a quiet corner of the office. Keanu had a proud smile on his face, watching the team celebrate their success. "You did a great job, Emma," he said, his voice warm. Emma's face lit up with a smile of her own. "I couldn't have done it without the support you've given me." Keanu leaned back in his chair, his eyes thoughtful. "It was all you, Emma. You had the heart for it from the beginning. I just gave you a chance to let it shine." Emma's mind drifted back to the moment when she had helped him in the lobby, when everything had seemed so uncertain, so risky. Now she could see the bigger picture. Her life had taken an unexpected turn, and it had led her to a place where she was finally doing something meaningful. But there were still moments when the past crept in, when doubts about her choices resurfaced. Was she really ready for all this? Was she truly deserving of the second chance Keanu had given her? Those questions didn't have easy answers, but as the months passed, Emma began to trust herself more. She had seen the impact her work was having on others, and that was all the confirmation she needed. The path she had taken had not been easy, but it had led her to a place of fulfillment and purpose. She was no longer the woman who had lost everything. She was the woman who had found something even more valuable, herself. Emma sat in her small apartment, the soft hum of the city outside her window. It had been over a year since that fateful day in the hotel lobby, the day she had made a choice that had seemed so simple at the time. She had helped a stranger, a nobody, and that decision had set in motion a series of events that would change her life forever. Looking back, Emma could hardly believe how far she had come. The woman who had once felt invisible, the one who had been stuck in a job she hated, now had a career that filled her with purpose. She worked for a foundation that helped others, and every day, she saw the difference her efforts were making. She had gained not only financial freedom, but also a sense of self-worth that had been lacking for years. Keanu Reeves, the man she had helped without knowing his true identity, had turned out to be the catalyst for her transformation. He had given her the opportunity to rebuild her life, to discover her potential, and to give back to others in a way she had never thought possible. As Emma reflected on the journey that had brought her here, she couldn't help but smile. She had learned that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could lead to the biggest changes, She had lost her job for helping a man who seemed like a nobody, but in the process, she had gained something far more valuable: a new sense of purpose, a career she loved, and a deeper understanding of what it meant to truly make a difference in the world. And so, as Emma looked ahead to the future, she no longer saw herself as the woman who had lost everything. She was the woman who had found a new beginning, one that had come from an unexpected moment of kindness, and one that had changed her life forever. If you enjoyed Emma's story and want to see more inspiring journeys, make sure to hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more incredible tales that will leave you thinking long after the video ends. After the video ends. After the video ends. After the